What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to Mock Draft 4.0 free agency. At least the biggest parts of it have happened, and now we have a lot of things to react to, a lot of changing pieces here in the mock draft, so super excited for this one. I do real quick want to thank everybody who liked the video. As I said, it helps me out more than you know. Also, not disliking the video simply because you disagree with the pick. If you disagree, hit me up in the comments, but it really does help me out, and this contributed to my most successful video in my YouTube career here, so I really would love it if you guys keep that up. It means so much to me. If you enjoy the video, please do hit that like button. And also a reminder here, this is a what I would do mock draft. I am drafting off of my own personal draft board, not necessarily what you're going to see in all of the other mock drafts. This is not a predictive mock draft. I think that is utterly pointless to try and predict exactly what's going to happen. Even the Mel Kipers of the world only get 4 or 5 picks right. I couldn't possibly tell you what all 32 GMs, let alone their scouting personnel, think about all of these players. I can only tell you what I think based off of the tape I've watched. So I'm putting myself in the GM chair of all 32 teams, giving my honest pick at every single one. I'm not trying to screw any team over. I'm trying to build the best team possible for all 32 teams. And yes, there will be trades. So without wasting any more time here, let's get into it. The Arizona Cardinals picking first overall, sticking to what I've had since the beginning of January. Kyler Murray, first overall. Yes, they have Josh Rosen, and yeah, I didn't hate Josh Rosen in last year's draft either. But the fact of the matter is that sophomore season is so important for these quarterbacks. I still believe Josh Rosen can become a Jared Goff, a Matt Ryan type of system quarterback around the right team. I do not see that here in Arizona. Well, why do I think that could work for Kyler? Well, Kyler is mobile. He can create offense on his own. He has a stronger arm. He is more accurate. He doesn't need exactly everything, perfectly in place like I do think Josh Rosen does. So Arizona gets their franchise quarterback. All of these rumors that Josh Rosen is going to fetch a third-round pick are utterly ridiculous. Now, I don't have any proof here, but I would bet my money that Arizona already has offers from teams like the Chargers, the Patriots, probably the Steelers even, that will give their first round pick for Josh Rosen, because why wouldn't you? He would be the second best quarterback in this class, who is now available at a discount, and he is at worst a super cheap backup, but he could be the quarterback of the future, especially given time to develop. So I think Arizona could easily get those offers. But I think they're just sitting back, playing this thing out as they should, seeing if a team like Miami or Washington or Cincinnati would give up their first-round pick for him. They are in no rush to trade Josh Rosen. So I do think you could get a first-round pick back, which is not bad at all, considering it was the 10th pick last year. And the biggest thing I tell people about why Kyler Murray to Arizona, if you asked Kyle Shanahan, if you asked Pete Carroll, Sean McVay, who do you want to face twice a year, Josh Rosen or Kyler Murray? I think you would get a resounding Josh Rosen. And that is the strongest case I can make for Kyler Murray, who is the clear-cut best quarterback in this class. And if you want to know more about why I like Kyler Murray so much, you can find my film breakdown of him on my Patreon, where I went through multiple games of him and really showed why he is, frankly, more Russell Wilson than he isn't. Obviously, he is his own quarterback, but I really do think he's going to be a fantastic player at the next level. Next up, we've got the San Francisco 49ers. This has been an easy pick, really, this entire process. Nick Bosa. Now, Quinnen Williams has closed the gap, honestly, in terms of how good of a prospect he is. But the fact of the matter is, San Francisco has DeForest Buckner. They have Solomon Thomas, who they spent the 3rd overall pick several years ago, who is now going to move inside this season where he has had more success. And they also still have Arik Armstead, who's kind of a bit of a tweener. Now, I get it. They have D Ford now. They traded a future second for him. I've always said that D Ford, in an ideal situation, D Ford is a high-end, top tier number 2 pass rusher, a complimentary guy to a true elite guy. And Nick Bosa is just short, if not even higher, of a prospect than like a Myles Garrett, who can be a true number 1 edge guy. You build these teams through the line, and from what is a very good offensive line in San Francisco with a great quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, and now a potentially dominant defensive line that is much improved. man, the 49ers are really building things up to be the surprise team of next year. I'm really glad I got my bets down on them to win the Super Bowl at 45-1, because once this offseason is said and done, I think that it's going to be half of that, and people are going to be buying into this Niners team very quickly. So next up, we've got the New York Jets, and this was a really tough pick for me. You definitely think about trading down here. They have a lot of holes. They definitely still need a little more help on that offensive line. If you could get a right tackle, a starting right tackle out of this draft, that would be ideal. But I don't know if that's really going to work out in terms of where they're picking. Now, Quinnen Williams is still sitting there, and the Jets have had success just taking the best player available in the past with guys like Jamal Adams and Leonard Williams. So you bring in Quinnen Williams, you now have an elite identity on this team. I know they like Henry Anderson, but he can rotate in there, he can play on base packages, and you now have the second coming of the Williams brothers, and you can generate at least an elite interior pass rush and figure out how to get these edge guys going later. So while it's important to build around Sam Darnold and make sure he has all of the offensive weapons to succeed, I think you've done a good job of that through free agency. It is still important to, recognize that this team has multiple blue chip defenders already. Leonard Williams, CJ Mosley, Jamal Adams. So if you can get a truly elite, Hall of Fame caliber player like Quinnen Williams has the potential to be, and put him in there, you can now have a very, very good defense to support Sam Darnold in different ways. So at pick number 4, the Oakland Raiders. Now, so many Raiders fans have penciled this in to be Josh Allen. Now, I am going to stay on this hill. I do not think Josh Allen is worth the top 6-7 pick. I think he's a fantastic athlete, but he is in the same class with like Anthony Barr or perhaps even Hassan Reddick, who were edge rushers / off-ball kind of hybrid guys. Granted, Anthony Barr was more of a pure edge rusher in college, but just these really good athletes who can move in space, but they're built like edge rushers, but they don't necessarily have that elite skill set, which I do not see in Josh Allen. I understand he had sacks. Well, a lot of that came blitzing off the edge, unblocked, schemed open against worse competition. Now, he can win with his length, he can win with his speed, but if you are taking a pass rusher, an edge guy specifically, this high, I want to see counter moves, specific skill sets that you bring to the table. He's going to have to develop all of those things. So to me, I do think Josh Allen will fall in this draft. So many comments from the last video, stopped watching when Josh Allen fell past 4. Like, well, if I had Derwin James falling out of the top 6 in a mock draft last year, would you have stopped watching then? I bet you're the same person that were commenting on videos about Derwin falling or Jonathan Allen the year before that. I just don't think NFL teams are going to look at Josh Allen's skill set and think he's worth a top 5 pick. So the value here for the Oakland Raiders, even if Josh Allen is a great fit for them, is to move down. And I know it hurts because you want to find an elite talent, but in reality, if you're picking here, the talent is not that big of a difference between 4 and 11 based on my draft board. And when you have a quarterback here available that teams will be willing to move up and get, you have got to capitalize on that value. So that is what we're going to do with the Oakland Raiders. And we're going to do the same thing we did in the last mock. I don't just make these things up and then change them because I just want to be different. Some people might want to see that, but I do truly believe this is a good move for the Cincinnati Bengals to move up from 11. You're going to give up the 3rd pick this year, obviously the 11th pick this year, and your 1st round next year to move up 7 spots. So you get a good pick this year in the 3rd round for the Raiders, who could be a potential starter, and a 1st round next year. We know this team probably won't be ready to win a Super Bowl this year, so you get more draft capital for the future and a great player here at 11. And the Bengals come up and get a quarterback that they can kind of do the Patrick Mahomes thing with, where he sits behind Andy Dalton for a year, and this new coach can kind of coach up Dwayne Haskins. Maybe by the end of the year he does start, and then you sell Andy Dalton to maybe get that 3rd round pick back in a year. And I think that's a great fit for Cincinnati as well. He's also an Ohio boy, and I just really think Cincinnati recognizes that Andy Dalton is a good starting player in this league. He's probably going to be fine for them next year, and I've called Cincinnati a sleeper team next year, and this doesn't change any of that. And I do think Andy Dalton would start, but you do also need to look for the future, especially when the opportunity arises to get a quarterback like this that, frankly, I don't know that they're going to be bad enough to really pick any of these top guys in the future. So let's move on. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is going to be a surprise here. I did have to apologize to Bucs fans. This team's been running a 4-3 seemingly since the old, John Gruden days about 20 years ago. I don't know if they've run a 3-4 in between there or not, but it definitely feels like they've been 4-3 for so long that I forgot that Todd Bowles is going to come in here and install that aggressive attacking 3-4 scheme. So yes, Josh Allen would be a fantastic fit here, and they totally could do that. But personally, I don't think he's worth this pick. And it's going to sound crazy, but I'm going to go back to a pick I made back in January for this team, Byron Murphy at cornerback. Now, hear me out here. This is mostly about demand at this position. Look at free agency. Look at the depth in this class. Cornerback is not easy to find. Teams are letting edge rushers go. They're not letting corners go unless they get hurt all the time or they're slot guys. So could Tampa Bay trade down and still get a corner? Maybe. Cleveland probably could have done that from 4 last year when they quote-unquote reached on Denzel Ward. I called that a terrible pick then. It worked out just fine for them. The reality is cornerback is not an easy position to acquire, whereas edge rushers, you can find them. There's plenty out there still on the free agent market now, and there's 8 or so guys that I'd be comfortable taking in the first round in this class. There's only 2 corners in this class, Byron Murphy and Greedy Williams, who I'm comfortable starting day one at corner, truly comfortable as first-round prospects. So it's a demand thing here. It's an absolute need for Tampa Bay, and I'm not just doing it because I think they need to reach for a need. I genuinely love Byron Murphy. The 4.55, yes, it hurt his stock a little bit, but he still moved extremely fluid. He just looked, far and away so much smoother and more ready to play than any other corner in this class. His tape is the best in this class. It's some of the best cornerback tape I've ever seen, honestly. I think he's going to shed some of the 18 pounds he put on and run a little faster at his pro day. If he could get anywhere in the 4.4s, I just think Byron Murphy is an incredible prospect. My comparison for him is Denzel Ward, because he will light you up. He's physical in run defense. He is super instinctive and smart with his zones, but he's got the quickness to run man. I just love this player, and Tampa Bay screwed up so bad by passing on Derwin James. Their coverage has been so bad for so long that they need to fix this coverage. They cannot continue to ignore this position, or at least miss on this position, because I do know they drafted a couple guys last year, but none of them are a true number 1 corner like Byron Murphy can be. So it might be an unpopular pick, but it's the pick that I am making, and if I'm the GM of the Bucs, I'm very happy to have Byron Murphy in the building. And then at number 6, the New York Giants, who I did think about moving up for Dwayne Haskins, but Dave Gettleman seems to be set on Eli Manning for whatever reason. And I just think the package that you can get from Cincinnati to go up and make that move might be a little better than what you're getting from New York. So as far as New York is concerned, you do at some point have to get some talent on this defense where they are just completely deprived of it. And to me, a player that has been consistently mocked in the teens, I do not understand it. He was the consensus number 1 pick before the year started. They had a disaster season. Their coach is gone. They had him playing as a nose tackle, getting doubled and tripled every play with just a terrible stance. Ed Oliver is going to be a menace in this league. You don't need to compare him to Aaron Donald. No one is going to be Aaron Donald, although Ed Oliver does have the potential to do it. I'm not going to predict that to happen. But he can be Geno Atkins, who is an absolute terror in this league. Similar size, speed comparison. Get him the right coaching. He's going to be surrounded by some really good D linemen here, and I understand that the Giants' strength on defense, if they have one, is their defensive line, but they don't have an elite player on that defense, and you're getting it here in Ed Oliver. There's a lot of Ed Oliver haters because he didn't have sacks in college. Watch his tape. He is literally getting doubled and triple teamed every single play because everyone knew going into this year that he was the best player in college football. They didn't give him, or he didn't have a chance to be good last year. Well, put him on an NFL team where the talent's a little more spread out. He's going to be just fine. He's going to be more than just fine. I love Ed Oliver. And then number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We moved down here in the last draft. Well, now that they've given Nick Foles a 4-year deal, I look at the right side of this offensive line. If this thing's going to work out, you have got to protect Nick Foles, just like Philadelphia did. He needs time to throw. He is not a quick twitch quarterback who's going to survive with how big of a hole the right side of this line is. So Jonah Williams, I'd start him at right tackle. He could play right guard if you need him. I think he's the best offensive line prospect we've had come out in multiple years. I think he's a total stud, and this is just a slam dunk pick for Jacksonville that's going to allow this offense to be more coherent next year, even though I don't totally buy in to what they've done with Nick Foles, making him their franchise quarterback, giving him that much money. It is the plan, and you do need to support that investment, and that's what I'm doing with Jonah Williams. And then Detroit at number 8. This has been my pick going back to January. I'm going to stick with it. Rashan Gary. Same thing with Ed Oliver. People hate Rashan Gary. Literally, cannot stand this player. I love him. They say, oh, he didn't produce in college. Well, he was top 10 in hurries the last time he played a full season, which was just a year ago. Last year, he was off to a just fine start, got injured, came back probably a little earlier than he should have because of that, tough blue-collar mentality there in Michigan. They probably forced him back. I think people watch his tape from when he was beat up and don't see the same player. Well, he gets healthy, comes out the combine. This dude is massive, and he runs a 4.6. We are talking about a Jadeveon Clowney type of prospect here who's getting buried by a very deep class. If I told you could get Jadeveon Clowney, who, he's never been an elite, polished edge rusher at the next level, but he is a monster to handle, and he does get sack production because of his size, speed, length. That's what you're looking for here in Rashan Gary. Detroit still needs an edge presence opposite of Trey Flowers. They were last in the NFL in hurries last year. I understand they have a good interior defensive line, but this is the exact type of versatile piece that the Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia type, the multiple scheme likes to look for. And you pair him opposite of Trey Flowers, who he can learn for, develop more pass rushing moves. Slam dunk pick here for Detroit. I really do think you're getting a Jadeveon Clowney type of player here at number 8. It's just a better draft class. The lack of production simply does not scare me, just like it doesn't with Nick Bosa. It's a very similar situation, to be honest. So then number 9, the Buffalo Bills. I like what they did in free agency. They added some nice pieces, but this team still has a ton of holes. I do think Ty and Sicky can play, who they paid to come in and be their right tackle. I do like Dion Dawkins, so I don't think you need the tackle here. A lot of people like tight end here or even DK Metcalf. Personally, I don't love DK Metcalf, and I did pick tight end here in my last mock, but I did find a trade partner this time for Buffalo, the Atlanta Falcons, who traded up in our last mock to actually go and get Devin White. Well, this time things have changed a little bit. Kind of the same idea. I think Atlanta does still carry that kind of aggressive mentality, that idea that they are ready to win. But with the cutting of their right tackle, Ryan Schrader, who's been there for a long time, how many times do I say that if you have a system quarterback like Matt Ryan, you have got to have at least 2 solid starting tackles, and they have a huge gaping hole at tackle. I don't think they're going to want to sit around and wait for this at 14, even though there's only 4 picks in between. There are still 2 really good tackles. Last year, I said Mike McGlinchey was the only tackle in the entire class that I was comfortable starting week 1. This class, there are 3. One's already off the board. We're going to move up and take Andre Dillard, who's one of the best pass-protecting line prospects you're ever going to find. And that's what they need, is a mobile, quick guy who can just, he's got the reach, the strength as well, was just super polished coming out. He's going to plug right in at right tackle, and you now have a duo there with Matthews and Dillard to protect Matt Ryan for the rest of his career. Moving up 5 spots, it's not going to cost them a future first. It'll be a 3rd rounder and a second round next year, top 50 protected, that becomes a 3rd round if you're picking too high. So Buffalo able to pick up an extra pick this year that they can use on an offensive weapon, and still gets to pick probably the player they might have gone with at number 9. So with the 10th pick, the Denver Broncos, bringing in Joe Flacco here, they seem to want to milk this window out, try to win with defense, run the ball, have serviceable quarterback play, whatever. I don't know if I believe in the plan, but that is the plan. So Devin White is the pick here, a great fit. Gets to be coached up by Vic Fangio, who's possibly the best front seven coach in the history, outside of maybe Bill Belichick. But you get a young superstar here. He can help in coverage, which was a bit of a problem last year in the short to intermediate game, but also in run defense. Just a really great fit here. Denver also signed Jawan James, so you do not need to take a tackle here. So this allows them to build off their strength and pretty much take the best player available here as well. So now number 11, where Oakland traded down. Now this pick got just absolutely criticized when I did it in the past because people think there's no chance in hell Josh Allen falls here to 11th, but that is what I'm going to have happen here. Again, drafting off my own board, I have questions about Josh Allen. I don't see second moves. I don't see the elite pass rushing skill set. He took about half his snaps as an off-ball linebacker. I think many coaches and scouts, almost myself included, see him as a flexible, almost off-ball Anthony Barr, Hassan Reddick type of player. I don't think you take that player in the top 10. Now, he has the upside to develop into an elite pass rusher, but keyword develop. He's going to need to learn secondary moves. He's going to need to learn how to play off the edge every snap, like he did not do at Kentucky. The biggest thing here, you guys got to understand, not all sacks are created equal. I understand he had a lot of production in college. Well, Vic Beasley had 15 and a half sacks one year for the Atlanta Falcons. He's been one of the lowest rated edge rushers in that time since. You can't just look at sacks. You got to look at skill set, physical ability. Now, he has all the physical ability, Josh Allen. That's why we're putting him here at 11. But I just do not feel comfortable as a top 10 pick putting Josh Allen out there day one and saying, be my number one pass rusher. He does other things extremely well, but I just, in general, really think there's a chance that Josh Allen will be the surprise fall guy this year, just like Derwin was last year, Jonathan Allen before that. These things happen. So I understand some of you are still going to think I'm crazy, but this is a what I would do mock, and up to this point, I wasn't comfortable taking Josh Allen, but I am here at 11 for Oakland because I do still think he's a fantastic player and has a high ceiling. But in the top 10, I just think you're looking for that true day one impact. So let's move on. I did feel the need to defend that, but I'm not going to drone on forever. Number 12, this was the other pick that was heavily criticized. Green Bay here taking Greedy Williams. Packers fans very passionate about the fact that Green Bay has already taken 3 corners early in the last couple of years, that they needed edge rushers more than anything else. And I defended that I don't like Montez Sweat. I don't think he's worth this pick. I don't think Brian Burns is worth this pick. Clelin Ferrell. I said you can find edge rushers in free agency, but you can't find corners, just like I said about Byron Murphy. Well, Green Bay goes out and spends a ton of money on edge rushers. It shows you what they thought about their prospects of taking an edge rusher here at 12, and that opens up their ability to do some other things here in the draft and go best player available, which to me is Greedy Williams. Now, a lot of Packers fans saying they don't need corner. They got Kevin King, they got Josh Jackson, they got Jair Alexander. Well, Jair Alexander is a total stud. I believe that. But I watched Josh Jackson get torched in the slot week after week. I don't know if he can play corner. He might be more of a safety, which this move here, taking Greedy Williams, allows him to move to. And Kevin King doesn't have any hamstrings. Yeah, it'd be great if he could play, but you can't have enough good corners in this league. Greedy Williams and Jair Alexander gives you a dynamic duo. One's long, lengthy press guy. Jair can just straight up run. Mike Pettin used 6+ defensive back packages more than anyone in the league last year. So they're going to find ways to play these guys. But you put those 2 corners with Josh Jackson somewhere in the nickel and Adrian Amos with this D-line now. Now, this team has systematically ignored the linebacker position for about a decade, so maybe they could go Devin Bush here, but I just don't see why they would change now about that. And I still think that's a huge liability there at linebacker because Blake Martinez just can't cover. But as far as a pass defense is concerned, that's pretty damn good if they can stay healthy. And then you still got 2 more top 50 picks coming up where you can address some other needs. So number 13, Miami. I just love the plan here moving down. We're going to do the same thing we did in 3.0 if you remember that. The team moving up here is going to be the Houston Texans. Now, they're going to give up a lot to make this move, but I mentioned there's 3 starting tackles in this class. Houston cannot afford to not get one of them. because this team is actually pretty loaded. They could use some help at corner, but their defense is very good. The 2 first-round corners are gone at this point, so you're not sitting around hoping you could get a Greedy or a Byron Murphy. You can get pretty much the same player in the second round that you would be getting at 23, in my opinion, at least relatively close. And on offense, they're pretty set as well, except for tackle, which is possibly the biggest liability of any team in the league. They have got to get a franchise tackle to put in here with Deshaun Watson. Not every tackle class is as good as this one. I do not expect that they'll be picking early many years moving forward because it is a good young team. So Jawan Taylor, they're going to move up and get their man. They're going to have to give up a future first-round pick to do this. That worked out pretty well when they did it for Deshaun Watson. They're also going to get a mid-round pick back from Miami, probably a 4th, considering Miami's going to have the number 1 pick in the draft next year. So it's basically a 3rd. But I think Houston is just forced to make this move. Miami's going to definitely want to look for a trade down partner in that 20 to 26 range if we're going with the plan I'm going with. So I like that move for Houston. Next up, we've got the Buffalo Bills. We're going to get TJ Hockenson here. This is who we took at 9 in the last mock. Just a great player, can help you out in the run game, which this team does want to run the ball to help out Josh Allen, but it also gives them that big target. He's one of the best tight end prospects I've ever seen. He's got huge catch radius. He's fast, great route runner, good after the catch as well. Just a fantastic player. Top 10 is just a little rich for a tight end, so you move down a few spots and you're able to get him still. Just a great pick for Buffalo. 15, Washington. Washington's in kind of a weird state. They're going to try and win with defense and conservative offense again. They need help on the edge, and this is a fast, physical defense. It's an attacking 3-4 scheme, so we're going to get a 3-4 edge linebacker, Brian Burns. Now, the nice thing is Washington probably recognizes they're not going to win a Super Bowl right now, so they're not going to be quite as afraid to take a potentially more developmental guy in Brian Burns, who is just a true junior coming out, is just a freak athlete. He might have the highest ceiling of any player in this entire class if he can get the right guys around him, and I do think it's a good fit here in Washington. They've got a lot of talent on that defense, so I think it's a really good fit at a big need. 15 here, Brian Burns. Number 16, Carolina. They're looking for an impact player. Carolina's ready to get back and win. I love that they got Darrell Williams back. Hopefully Cam Newton can be healthy. So you put Newton there with an elite weapon on offense, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, who looked pretty good, and possibly the best tackle duo in the NFL if Darrell Williams can stay healthy. They're looking to be back, and they've got some good players on that defense, but they need an edge presence. Now, I understand Montez Sweat has the high upside, the physical ability, but I've got a lot of questions about Montez Sweat. We'll talk a little bit more about him later, but Clelin Ferrell, out of that same region of the country, he can come in, be an impact run defender right away, a polished pass rusher. I don't love Ferrell's ceiling, but he is a perfect fit in this defense, can plug right in and help them be a more competitive team next year. I think this is exactly the kind of player they're going to look to add. Number 17, the New York Giants, after trading Odell Beckham for this pick. We talked about this on the podcast. The only way this move is going to work is if trading Odell Beckham allows you to have a good offensive line in place for whenever you try to address the quarterback position. Now, another option here would be to move this pick for Josh Rosen, which I would not hate that move at all. I certainly thought about it, but I just want to get a franchise center here. Garrett Bradbury, super athletic dude. So you're now going to line up from left tackle to right guard. You've got a pretty good setup. You still need that right tackle, but all the elite tackles are gone at this point. So you're going to take the best lineman available, Garrett Bradbury, and plug him right in there and kind of continue with my plan there to beef up that offensive line for whoever the future quarterback is in next year's draft, hopefully. 18, the Minnesota Vikings, Cody Ford, no-brainer pick here. He's going to plug right in at one of the guard spots. Now, they do have still some questions at both tackle. Like, they're fine there. But if for some reason you did need Cody Ford to step in and play tackle, if one of those two guys they have drops off or gets hurt, he can do that. But he's also going to be just a dominant guard for this team, which is their biggest need by far. So Cody Ford here to the Vikings. Don't think we're going to get any complaints about that. Number 19, the Tennessee Titans. I really struggled with this pick. I just didn't really find a trade down partner for them or just really a need for them to trade down. Like, this roster is so deep that I don't think they're really worried about, collecting picks. I think they just need to kind of get the best player available. And for them, offense has been such a problem for them. Marcus Mariota loves throwing short, so let's get him Noah Fant, who's going to be an elite short to intermediate guy. You can be the long-term replacement for Delanie Walker. Even if Delanie Walker comes back healthy, you can still run 2 tight end sets. You can play Noah Fant in the slot. He will be a full-time starter here, even if Delanie Walker's there, and it gives you a long-term replacement. They like those faster, shorter tight ends. When Delanie did go down, they had a lot of success with Michael Pruitt. Noah Fant's just a much better version of that player, so I like this pick here for the Titans. Number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's been Deandre Baker here for a long time for Pittsburgh. I just think Baker's stock has fallen off a little bit. He's a fine athlete, but I just don't know if he's going to be a star corner. He seems like he's just going to be a really solid corner to me. So we're going to take Devin Bush. They're going to fill the coverage gap at linebacker here. Dude just feels like a Pittsburgh Steeler, so he's going to fly around, be an impact in coverage. Gives them kind of what they've been looking for since Ryan Shazier left. So number 21, this is like my favorite pick of all of this. It's Montez Sweat here to Seattle. And this is another guy that people are like, there's no way he falls. Well, I just don't believe in Montez Sweat. Yeah, he's super fast. He's going to be really fun in Madden. But I just don't see a lot of bend. I don't see any real, pass rushing moves. He basically just has a swim move, which is fine, but, he has no counter move. He's an older dude. He's 23. He's played in 3 schools. He has all the physical ability in the world. At worst, he's going to be a really good run defender. But if I'm a team like Miami or Buffalo or, I don't know, New York, I don't know if you're going to be able to get the most out of him. I'm a little worried that he's going to get his check as a first-round pick and cash out. Now, Seattle, they have as good of a culture as any for a player like Sweat to buy in. They are going to get the most out of him. They're going to get him to work hard because they've proved if you come in here, I don't care if you're a first-round pick, Rashad Penny, for example. If you don't work, you're not going to play, and you're not going to get paid. So Montez Sweat's going to be forced to keep at his game, and it's a perfect fit. It's a scheme fit for them. It's a high upside pick. I know a lot of Seahawks fans want to move down, but I don't know if they're going to be able to, pass on the upside of a guy like Montez Sweat. And even me, who considers Sweat to be a bust prospect in this class, think he would succeed in Seattle. And then number 22, Baltimore Ravens, a bit of a surprise pick here, Blake Cashman. Now this is kind of similar to what we've said about corners. Blake Cashman, a linebacker out of Minnesota, uber athlete, super instinctive guy, just looks like Sean Lee out there. And they have a huge hole now at linebacker. CJ Mosley's gone. So Cashman's a dude who, as people are watching more and more film after he came out and just stunned people with his athleticism at the combine, he's got great size as well. He can cover, play run defense. I don't think there's a huge gap, honestly, between Cashman and Devin Bush. I would not be surprised at all if Cashman ended up in the first round. So then number 23, where Miami moved down, this has been the plan here. I just love this pick. This is my favorite pick in the whole thing. Jeffrey Simmons here to Miami. He'd be a top 10 player in thinner classes if he didn't tear his ACL. Just a monster, just like Fletcher Cox coming out, honestly. Just an unblockable beast in the middle. But he's coming off that ACL injury. And Miami, they want to lose games next year. So you take a guy who you would normally have to take in the top 10 in a more common scenario, and he's not going to play next year, so he's going to help you lose. And then you come back the next year after you've had the number 1 pick with basically a red-shirted top 10 pick. It's just a perfect scenario. A lot of Dolphins fans love this, said they hadn't thought about it, but it just makes so much sense for Miami. And you've added a future first to move down this far. Number 24, the Oakland Raiders. This has been my guy. A lot of people, when I mock him in the first, just kind of scratch their heads because he's not a guy that, wowed people at the combine. He's a guy that had a lot of hype before the combine. And then, we always knew that Zach Allen here was never going to wow people with his athleticism. But throw on his tape. This dude is the most polished pass rusher in this class. He has power. He has a little bend for a slower dude. He can play on the inside. He can play on the outside. He can just do everything. He is a poor man's J.J. Watt. He even swats the ball at the same rate that J.J. Watt does. He's just such a good player. My draft strategy for Oakland is just to maximize on value. Get the best player available. Trade down if you think you can move down and get a similar type like we did from 4 to 11. And to me, best player on the board at this point for me is Zach Allen. It's not going to be a popular pick, but I really do think he's going to be an instant impact for this team. I actually like Zach Allen as a pass rusher better than Josh Allen. And you now have two guys on the edge, which was a big need. I don't think Arden Key can play. You got two versatile pieces here, two completely different types. And with some nice guys on the interior there, you can start to kind of build around this defensive line. Number 25, Philadelphia. Now, Greg Little is another player kind of like Montez Sweat that I don't love, and I think a lot of people will share that sentiment. But Jason Peters cannot play left tackle forever, and Greg Little does not need to start. You can come in here, learn how to play behind Jason Peters, and just develop him up, because I really do not know if he's going to plug in if he's not surrounded by talent and be a great player. But he has so much physical ability. This is one of the best developing coaching staffs in the league, and I do think Greg Little could become a franchise left or right tackle for Philadelphia, as they're going to need to keep Carson Wentz upright after the Jason Peters era is done. And then at pick number 26, the Indianapolis Colts, Nasir Adderly. This was our pick in the last mock. Now, another pick I like here is DK Metcalf, but I really just, Metcalf is my number one receiver. Don't get me wrong. I see the upside, but I do think he's stiff. I think he's going to be a bit of a one-trick pony. The big reason I haven't had receivers going to this point is there's just a huge cluster of guys, and I don't know who's going to take a receiver in this 20 to 32 range knowing that they can still get a guy of similar caliber with their second-round picks, So you're taking players to other positions just unless some run at wide receiver happens. I think Indianapolis knows that they can still get a really freaking good receiver, just about as good as DK Metcalf, if not DK Metcalf, in the second if they wait. So we're going to go Nasir Adderly here. Perfect combination with Malik Hooker, who's more of that center fielder. Now, Nasir Adderly could play center field. He's very rangy, but he reminds me so much of Malcolm Jenkins. Can play a little slot corner, some linebacker, some strong safety. Can even play outside corner if you need him. Super physical player, tremendous tackler. He's just going to fly around and make plays. Between him, Malik Hooker, and Darius Leonard, passing on this team is going to be just a nuisance. And then number 27, the Oakland Raiders. Not a lot of people loved this pick, but for me, if I'm the Raiders, you've just got to get the safest stud players that you can think of. And for me, it's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, I mentioned outside corners, which is a huge need for Oakland. I don't think there's anyone that I'm super confident to be, a really good quality starter. Now, like Deandre Baker could certainly be that, but I do have questions there that he could be a bust. You know what I'm saying? So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's going to come in, start in the slot, which is his starting position. He's going to probably get announced as a safety. He's not a safety. He's a nickel corner, and a damn good one. He's going to help you so much defending, these offenses that you see so many short to intermediate passes, screen games, the run game. He's going to help you against these division opponents who all three of these teams are focused on offenses just like that. He's going to tackle better, which was a big problem for this team. And I really don't think this is much of a reach at all. I've got a first to a second round grade on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And if you're Oakland, you can't miss on this pick because you traded Amari Cooper away for it. You got to get at least a starting caliber player. Now, I understand why you might want to take a risk to try and get back what you had in Amari Cooper, but the odds of that working out are just pretty unlikely. So I'm taking just a stud player that I feel very confident in, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It was not a very popular pick in the last mock. I don't expect it to be this time either. Spent a lot of time justifying it in the comments, but just, dial up this guy's film. Gardner-Johnson is a total stud at an underrated position of nickel corner. Anyway, the LA Chargers here at 28, Dexter Lawrence, they have got to get more physical up front. Now, I've never been a big take a nose tackle in the first round type, but Dexter Lawrence is everything that Vita Vea was last year, if not more. And while I I don't value playing run defense very much. When you are like the Chargers and you got just absolutely gashed by the Patriots by the run in the playoffs and you looked helpless against it, then at some point, yeah, you probably do need to improve in the run defense. So Dexter Lawrence is just going to be just instantly make this team more physical up front. They have plenty of speed on that defense, but this gives you some strength and some power up front. So a great fit there. 29, Kansas City, we've kind of trashed DeAndre Baker. Now, I don't think he's a terrible player. I could see taking him in the first round given the lack of supply of good corners and the just demand for a team like Kansas City to just get a starting caliber corner in there, you know? So they're going to take DeAndre Baker, a bit of a replacement for what they had in Marcus Peters. He's a more physical dude, more of an in-your-face corner, really good ball skills, a good fit for this defense. He'll start on day 1. Number 30, the Green Bay Packers. We're going to go Dalton Risner here. I understand they signed Billy Turner, who's a flexible piece there at right guard. So they did kind of lower the need here, but I don't know how confident, any Packer fan really should be about Billy Turner being a long-term answer there at guard. I see him as kind of a rotational sixth piece for when injuries pop up, and to play for Brian Bulaga at right tackle the 6 games a year that he doesn't play. To me, Dalton Risner is a great fit here, physical. I'd start him there at right guard, and he could even be your answer at right tackle when you do move on from Brian Bulaga. So it just gives you some depth and options there on that offensive line. You have got to keep Aaron Rodgers upright, because if he takes another bad hit and has another significant injury, I just don't know how long this window is going to last here in Green Bay. So I still consider offensive line a huge need for Green Bay. And I think Risner falling here to 30 is a great value for Green Bay, and you can still get a really good receiver in the second round. So then pick 31, the Rams, we're going to go Jachai Polite, and they signed Clay Matthews. They're bringing Dante Fowler back. Like, it's not a huge need, but I do think they're still looking for that number 1 edge guy. Right now, it's just a big rotation. It's a team that's showed a willingness to take risks in the past. Polite's tape is awesome. Now, his workout scores were not very good. Apparently, his interviews went pretty poorly. I still think he's an incredible player. Before the combine, I had him as a top 10 talent. Now, you have to acknowledge some of those issues, but I do think this is the kind of culture that can take a guy like Polite and turn him into a Melvin Ingram type of player, and the type of team that's willing to take a risk on an impact player like that. And then number 32, we're doing the exact same thing here. The New England Patriots, we're going to trade the 32nd pick for Josh Rosen. Gives you plenty of time for Tom Brady to ride out into the sun. He'll be 45 when it's time to pay Josh Rosen. So Josh Rosen can sit there and learn from the best. And by the time it's time for him to take over, I mean, who's to say Bill Belichick can't go and win 4 more Super Bowls with Josh Rosen? And then for Arizona, this gives you the opportunity to take a weapon for your new quarterback, Kyler Murray, and why not a familiar weapon in Marquise Brown, who's going to be the perfect fit in this offense, can be that deep threat, can be that catch and run guy, familiar face. Just love this pick. One of 4 or 5 picks in this draft that I just, it just makes so much sense and it's just perfect. So that is going to do it. Again, guys, please hit that like button. I plan on doing something with the second, maybe third rounds in the future. Just have a lot on my plate. So I do want to get to that. It's been a popular request, so I do plan on that at some point. But yeah, please like the video. Cheers as always, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.